Well, good morning, everybody. This is Kevin Ross with Alternative Options for Elderly Care Placement Service. It's a service right here in Vancouver, Washington. You can find us on the web at www.alt-optns.com or right here on Facebook. Alternative Options at Facebook, whatever. Anyway, I wanted to talk today about assessments and service plans. I got a call from a friend who's starting an adult family home. Didn't quite understand how an assessment, how to read it, what to do with it, etc. So figured I'd discuss it a little bit. So assessments are just a starting point, essentially. Think of it from that point. The nurse spends 2 to 4 hours with each resident. They peruse through all kinds of medical records, talk to the family, talk to the resident. And some residents and families are actually good historians, therefore the assessment will be a lot more accurate. And some families and residents really are not good historians. The family lives across the country and the resident has dementia, and it's not a good historian to get information from. So it makes the job of the assessor a lot more difficult. But essentially the nurse spends like I said, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours with a resident. That's it. Now they move into your home and you're reading the assessment and think, my gosh, this thing is way off base. And it probably would be. So what do you do? Each of the individual ADLs, and there's 12 or 15 ADLs, etc., is graded anywhere from 0. They do that task completely by themselves without you even being in the room, and they do it successfully and accurately each and every single time. Level 1 would be you're standing by just in case they ask for help, primarily. Level 2 would be you are helping to some degree, but they're helping also to at least a minimal degree. And level 3 would be you're helping more, and at least they're helping to a minimum degree. Before they were doing most of the work in level 2, now in 3 you're doing most of the work, so think of it that way. And level 4 is you're doing it all. They're not really helping at all. So another way to think about it is level 1 is 25%, 2 is 50%, 3 is 75%, 4 is 100%. So who's doing what rough percentage, just a guesstimation basically, of the amount of work. Okay, so as you go through each of those ADLs, and it's been graded by the nurse assessor, and they will grade, dressing too, and you look at that and think, yeah, I don't think so. It's 3. So here's the thing to think about. If you're at a toss-up between level 2 and level 3, or 2 different levels, for example, level 2, level 3, and you're not sure where to put it, always err on the side of the resident. So put it at a level 2. Because if you always put it higher, then it appears as if though you're gouging, and you don't want that appearance at all. So always grade lower, unless it's obvious that it's level 3 or whatever. Okay, so the assessment is basically, I'll give you a little history on it. It actually goes back to the 90s when assessments first came out and nobody had an assessment. So I sat down with the nurses at that point and we designed what DSHS is currently using today. In fact, the Washington State Residential Care Council has that exact form that I created back in the 90s. So it addresses physical ADLs, bathing, dressing, ambulatory, feeding, whatever's, okay? But it really does not go into behaviors. So for example, with In It Together Nursing, I really love working with this service. They're a great bunch of people. They're very accurate. Beth has taken that DSHS nurse assessment form that I created in the 90s and has made it much better. So Nathan and I sat down with her, I don't know, about a month or so ago, and coming up next month, WSRCC is having training on behaviors. So I was talking to Beth. Leave your assessment as it is, because it's a very good assessment. but add another section on behaviors, specific behaviors. So if you have specific behaviors that you've run across, I would suggest dropping Beth either an email or a call. Google them, they're a very good service, because that will help Beth to redesign her assessment in the future to include those behaviors. So, okay, so now the next question I got from this person the other day was, there is behaviors with their resident and it's not really addressed. I mean, it's verbally addressed, not counted as points. So how do you do it? So when Beth is done with her assessment, it will include behaviors. So you've got your ADLs, your bathing, dressing, walking, blah, 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 and behaviors. Okay, so you add up the same points the same way you always would. So she's got 4 levels. I'm suggesting she add a 5th or even 6th level so that those behaviors have a place to go. Does that mean they only go in level 5 and 6? No. What if they're independent with everything? They truly are independent with everything. They have 0 points on bathing, dressing, walking, feeding, etc., but they have behaviors. Do you put them at a level 5 and 6? Is that fair? I don't think so. So it's just a continuation, essentially, of the basic ADLs. You add up whatever points, and if there's 0, 0. Then you add up the points and you continue adding, and now you get to the section on behaviors and you add up those points. So if there's only 20 points, let's say, in behaviors and nothing in the ADLs, they're at 20 points, period. However, if they're ADLs, they need physical help, and those points add up to 37 points, and then you add another 10 points with behaviors, they're now at 47. So 47 may go beyond, I don't know, I don't have it with me, Beth's level 4. That's fine, big deal. So it's a continuation of the assessment, now including the behaviors that we all have to deal with that DSHS won't cover, and now it's assessed. Why is that important? When a resident runs out of money, their spend down is done, and now they become Medicaid, now you are comparing a registered nurse's assessment to a social worker's assessment. Who trumps who? Well, the registered nurse trumps. And that registered nurse says they have behaviors, and this is what those behaviors are. You have a written record now. Now you can go back to DSHS and say they're not a level 1, 2, or 3 out of the 15 levels that you've got. They have behaviors that need to be addressed. It's addressed in this service plan. How are you going to address those needs? Like I said, you have a nurse that has now trumped that social worker. It has to be addressed. So Beth is working on this. She should be done sometime this summer, I'm hoping. She's doing a great job. I really enjoy her service. If you haven't utilized her service, I would encourage you to look her up in It Together Nursing. She does a great job. She's right here in Vancouver too. So that's essentially what the assessment is. It's just a starting point. You handwrite on that assessment, it becomes a service plan, what you're doing specifically for that resident. The whole purpose of doing that, if you think about it, is when you, let's say you, God forbid, something happens and you're taken out of the picture, or you go on vacation. Now a caregiver, somebody fresh off the streets, never seen this person before, can read your assessment, read your service plan, understand the needs, and go ahead and provide the care instantly. That's the whole purpose of it. So again, the assessment is just a starting point. It's your responsibility as the adult family home to go back through and say level 2 for ADL what. That's not quite accurate because I do A, B, and C. Okay, is it 25, 50, 75, 100%? Evaluate on your own, evaluate honestly. If in question, grade lower. Handwrite those notes right there, especially on the final page that talks about total points. So maybe ADL, whatever is a level 2. You think it should be a 3 or 4, but you're going to grade conservatively, so it becomes a 3. You go to the next, all the way through, including the behaviors. Add them all up, whatever level they fall at, that's where it goes. That's how you get an assessment / service plan accurate and keep it accurate. You always want to go back and review that service plan on a regular basis. I would suggest at the beginning of every month. Just go back, look it over, hand scribble some more notes on there if needed. Otherwise, just verify that it's done. Again, you want to make sure that the assessor signed it, you signed it, and either the resident or their power of attorney has signed it. Otherwise, you should be golden. Thanks. This is Kevin Ross with Alternative Options. ALT-OPTNS.com. Hope to talk to you soon. Thanks for your help.